See what happens. Here we are. I am Ray, and the path to God begins where religion ends. You see, Carl Jung once said, one of the main functions of organized religion is to protect people against a direct experience of God. Wow. The problem simply comes down to this. Here's a box. Here you are in that box. But here is God outside the box. You try to put an unlimited thing in limitation. You try to put the unboxable in a box, and it cannot be done. And so you literally separate yourself from God by saying, this is the way God is, and this is the only way. And as they say, there's nothing more dangerous than ignorance in action, because religious people are often very certain that their way is the truth, and then they live their life believing that, not knowing that they are perhaps under the influences of the forces of darkness. We must understand that ignorance is the source of evil. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of the truth. What I call the first law of truth. And that is, we all one, and there is no such thing as separation. And so the reason that evil is sourced in ignorance is because an evil person thinks they can take advantage of you, and they cannot, because there is no separation. What you do to another, you are also doing to yourself. So if you were to go and murder somebody, you would not realize that you also at the same time murdered yourself. Why would you do that? You wouldn't. Only in ignorance would you do that. Only in ignorance can you willfully and consciously hurt another person. And you know, when people are under the forces of darkness, when they're always judging, think about the Westboro Baptist Church for a moment. They probably believe somehow that they're doing the right thing. This is what the religion says. We have to hate the gays, so we're going to do it. This is what the book says, right? Ignorant. Why is this ignorant? Because every time you judge somebody else, it's the same thing. You raise yourself up on a pedestal to be the hero, and you put somebody else down as the villain. You can see this every time you watch somebody judge another person. It's always the same thing. You're wrong and I'm right. And how often do you see that in religion? People who argue about religion do not love God as much as they think. To spend your time trying to put another person's beliefs down is not seeking the truth. It's not seeking God. It's trying to compensate for your insecurities. Oh, my beliefs have to be right. They have to be right. So I'm going to go and defeat other people's beliefs so I can believe that I'm belief. I haven't had enough coffee yet. Why is there insecurity? Because of ignorance. We don't want to face the vastness of our ignorance. So we have to pretend like we know. We have to get inside this little box, and that is our safety box. A little safe space. It's like a ship that's sinking. As long as you're not paying attention to the ship, you won't have to face the reality of the situation. But what do you think a midlife crisis is? You spend your whole life building the foundation of everything on a false premise. I am this person, and these are my beliefs, and this is what I think. And when the light of truth comes along and instantly dissolves everything, no more box for you. And then you're cast out onto the ocean trying to figure things out. Sometimes people drown, but the framework of everything you believe to be true is destroyed. Because think about it. Would you build the foundation of your house on sand that is always moving? Or would you build the foundation of your house on solid ground? This is the difference between religion and people who are truly spiritual. Think about it. All you need is one tiny piece of information to completely destroy everything you believed. Beliefs are always changing, but God is unchanging. That is the difference. When you build the foundation of your life on God, you are strong and fortified, like a tree that's got deep roots. You're not going nowhere. Doesn't matter what happens in life. But this is why people go through crises, because they built the foundation of their life on that which is changing. They have no solid ground. So when the storms of life come, they just get blown over. And think about it this way. An asteroid could come tomorrow and destroy everything. all remnants of the human species, all religions, all beliefs, all everything, gone, as if it never existed at all. But what would happen to God? Nothing, because God would remain unchanged. So, fundamentally speaking, we have to come to the realization that all religions fall short. Not that they are not useful, but we have to be honest with ourselves. We must be humble and wise, my friends, and be able to say, I don't know. To be happy not knowing. To not be stuck in the survival mentality of, okay, I gotta know. Because if I don't know, bad things could happen. Bad things are going to happen anyway. If you build the foundation of your life on poor ground, the moment if God, if anything, is the ultimate truth, and the moment you say, I know, you automatically cut yourself off from the truth. But the moment you say, I don't know, now you can be opened up to the truth. That is the problem with religion. It makes people think that they have found the way. But it's like they say, it's the blind leading the blind. Religion works for some people. That's not what I'm saying. But the problem is it enslaves just as many people as it sets free. It's not that religion is bad or good. It's a vehicle to God. And this is the problem. People are always arguing, oh, my vehicle is better. Look at my Lamborghini. Look at my tires and my V8 engine. Better than yours. They argue about the vehicle. My book is better. And they ignore the whole point to get you from point A to B. You know somebody loves God when they pay attention to God and not pay attention to their own silly little ego. I think part of the problem is that people overcomplicate the whole thing. You see, there are an infinite array of different things for us to know in this life, but there are only very few things for us to understand. People get wrapped up in the knowledge aspect. You have to do this in order to get to God. God is like this. You can't get to heaven unless you do this or do that. Do this nightly ritual. People focus on all the details, all the little things that, at the end of the day, are not as important as the one thing that truly matters. What is that thing? You could ignore everything. You could ignore every holy book, every religion, every single thing. And do this one thing and you will be successful. All you have to do, look at God. Just point your mind in that direction. Look at Him. Just look. Look at Him. Come on. Think about being in a relationship with somebody you really love. Do you need to talk? Do you need to say anything? Or can you just enjoy each other's presence? But no. People who are insecure, always gotta be talking, fill in the silence. Silence is in the present moment. Being. But when we're always talking and thinking and judging and things like that, we're getting pulled into the mind space. We're getting pulled into the past, to the future, and judging our current experiences, which separates us from the present, separates us from true connection to God. And so I say, the more you speak about God, the further you stray from God. Now, if you're a spiritual teacher or a preacher, it's your job to talk about God. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, if you truly love God, you will be with God. And if you don't love God as much as you think, you'll be busy with all the mind stuff. It doesn't mean you don't talk to God at all. Because in order to get to that place where you can sit in each other's silence and be perfectly okay, there must be dialogue. You must develop that relationship over time. The only true spiritual practice that really matters is prayer. And prayer kind of goes along with meditation. Meditation is the process of diving deep into this present moment, into the silence, and prayer is opening up a dialogue with God. You could say meditation is like going to God's house. Knock, knock. But you see, I've heard some people say things like, meditation is demonic. What? Not good. You don't realize that the devil just came in the back door and is now pulling your strings without you aware of it. To say such a stupid thing. People who judge other things as demonic are often under the influence of the demonic. Because so long as you're living in ignorance, you can be easily manipulated. The one trait that you must be wary of, be very careful of others who have this trait. Those who are closed-minded. It is very difficult to come to God if you are closed-minded. Well, because you're not open to God's influence. And so you cut yourself off from the truth. So don't do it. And just let them be. They'll figure it out one day. Never try to convince a closed-minded person of anything. Because they don't care. They don't have ears to hear. Their ears are gone. Their spiritual ears. And you see, Jesus spoke about this in the parable of the sower and the seeds. One day, a farming man came along and was throwing seeds everywhere. Some of the seeds fell on the road and were eaten up by the birds. Some of the seeds fell in the weeds in the thorny places, and they were smothered out. Some of the seeds were thrown in the rocks, and they were unable to take root. And only a few seeds fell on fertile ground. What does this mean? Jesus is telling us how to be open to the truth, to receive God's wisdom. Don't be like the people who are hardened, like the concrete ground. Well, I guess there probably wasn't concrete back then. If you are too hardened and rigid in your ways, you will not be open to the truth. Be wary of your environment. If you're in a place that's toxic, it's going to be difficult to receive the truth. Or if your mind is toxic, if you're so busy in your temporary pleasures and the worldly desires and worldly things, if the garden of your mind is being consumed by weeds and thorns, the truth is going to get smothered out. And well, if you are shallow in your knowledge, in your desire for wisdom, you shall not find anything. It's like a lot of people on social media. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Eating spiritual fast food. Oh wow, very cool. Oh wow. But it doesn't really change your life. Spiritual surface dwellers. One of my buddies, who is a hardcore Christian, he was talking about his grandma. And he said she was going to church for like 40 years. But when he looks at her life and her actions, there is a contradiction. And you see this a lot with religious people. On the surface, they wear the mask of morality and virtue. Oh, I go to church. I'm a good person. I'm saved. Yay. But their actions, their life, it's just all surface level. Garbage. Not real. So being shallow will prevent you from the truth. And so how do you become fertile for God's wisdom? Be open-minded. Be open to the truth. Don't be so prideful and rigid and say that, oh, I know. This is why humility is the cardinal virtue. Because humility is the doorway in which wisdom enters. Second, I would say, have a desire for a better life. For good things. Have a desire for God. Because here's the thing. Things fall apart of their own accord. You don't have to do anything to make a mess. All you have to do is neglect. So your environment, whether in your mind or your outer environment, will naturally fall apart. It requires upkeep. It requires you maintaining order. It's like if you're a gardener. I'm not a gardener, but so I've heard that, well, the weeds will pop up regardless of what you do. But you're not going to just randomly get tomato plants. You have to nurture and water the good plants and continuously cut down the bad ones. In your mind, what does this mean? It means that if you're always focusing on negativity, you're watering the weeds and the thorns and the trees that bear toxic fruits. And so your mind gets smothered in this dark nastiness. And that is reflected in your life. But if you kind of take a stand for yourself and say, no, I'm not going to live this way any longer. I deserve a good life. I'm not going to just entertain all this fear and this worry and this garbage. And you start pruning the weeds day by day, step by step, cutting them down. And you start watering the good plants, watering the good beliefs, the good thoughts. What you'll find at the end of it, I'm telling you, is the Garden of Eden. You never left. It just got overrun with all kinds of garbage. The default state is paradise. I say to you, my friend, if you wish to find peace, quiet the mind. If you wish to find love, open the heart. But if you wish to find God, do both. That is why Jesus said, unless you come to me as little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Because the process of returning to God is all about purification. Purification of mind and purification of heart. Loving other people. Stop judging them. Realize that they are one with you. Love your enemies. Because when you hate your enemies, you're separating yourself from God. And when you live a wicked life, Your mind is always going to be in turbulence. You'll have no peace. You won't be able to sleep comfortably at night. And if you don't have the desire to seek more, if you don't have the desire for knowledge and wisdom, then you will just remain on the surface, and you will not be open to truth. The way to God requires a bit of effort, or at the very least, some intention. If you follow that, you will be fertile for God's wisdom, and will be open to the truth. But you see, sometimes religion can make you rigid in your ways, cut you off from the truth. It can poison your mind through the judgment of others, through attacking other people's beliefs, and being unloving. Not good. And it can cause you to be shallow, because, well, some people are lazy. They don't actually want what they say they want. They just want the illusion of it. They want to say, oh yes, I go to church, I'm good. So everybody else around them will like them. Oh, they're such a good person. They go to church. Don't be a surface dweller. Same thing with spiritual stuff. You can wear a bunch of crystals, doesn't make you spiritual. But truly seek wisdom and you shall find. But do not seek and you shall not find. Make sense? I am Ray. Visit my cool store. Talk to me. And join our community. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be.